Hello and welcome to Strangers Shopping Strangers. This is the podcast number 17. Thank you so much for joining. A big welcome back to anyone who's returning. Anna, thanks for stopping in to anybody who's new to this podcast. So thank you. Well, I have had so much fun meeting all the strangers in the last 14 podcasts since podcast number 2 with my good friend Wendy. And this week's is a return to the nest. This is not a stranger, but a friend, not even a friend, but my first best friend, deadhead friend, and that is my big sister, Michelle. We had so much fun making this podcast, and welcome to the family, everyone. So I hope you guys enjoyed listening to us as much as we enjoyed making it. We start off when Michelle was a senior in high school and her first show experiences. We go on to when I jumped on the bus with her and all the great times we had going to Shoreline and Cal Expo. We go to a New Year's Eve show and then on to a New Year's show with Furthur that she enjoyed with her husband. And we wind up in Boston at Fenway, where we got to enjoy seeing the Dead & Company this past summer and just had an amazing weekend. And after our podcast, I have a special second guest this week, and it's the Chicken Shack guy. He was on in the summer, and summertime come and gone, my oh my, and he's back because we got an election coming up, and he's been in touch with Uncle Sam and has a few things he wants to weigh in on. So please stay tuned for Chicken Shack at the end of the podcast. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in and listening, and we'll catch you in a couple weeks.
Well, Michelle, welcome to Strangers Shopping Strangers podcast.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be a guest.
Well, this is very exciting. This is the first non-stranger that I've had since the first podcast, and it couldn't be anybody more special and important and anyone I love in the whole wide world. So this is my heart is smiling right now getting to talk to you about the dead and chat. So this is super fun.
Well, thank you. No, I've really enjoyed listening to all of them, so I'm excited to be a guest on the other side, on the speaking end.
Well, welcome to the Bernard Girls Dialogue podcast, listeners. So you're in for a treat today. So, well, let's start. Typically the podcast, we kind of start at the beginning. I mean, I know the beginning, but I want to share, you sharing the beginning, and we're going to play the first show. And so, tell me when the grateful that you brought it to our family. So tell me a little how you brought the music in.
So thinking back, my first experiences were, of course, with Auntie Anne. I want to say the first album that really spoke to me was American Beauty. I remember her playing that and just loving it. And then a good friend of mine in high school, Emily, her brother was really into the Dead, and so she had tons of tapes of different concerts and things. So she would get copies of tapes, and we would listen to them. And I always enjoyed the music, but it really didn't fully come together for me until seeing them live. I mean, that was amazing. And my first show was May 87, so that was my senior year in high school, at Laguna, Seca. We headed over to Monterey, and it was my first experience seeing them live, and it was just amazing.
Well, and we were talking about it earlier. It was a camping weekend, but this was just a one and done. The Laguna Seca that we were talking about last week, which really was my ultimate inspiration for getting you on the podcast, was me admitting last week that I had hijacked your memories and turned them into mine. But this isn't that Laguna Seca. This is the first one. So this is senior year.
It was just a day. They played Saturday and Sunday, and there was camping going on, but it was a day trip for us. We headed over Saturday, and honestly, it was so much fun. I wish that we were staying, but Sunday was Mother's Day, and the plan was to come home, but I was able to rewrite it. I would have loved to stay. It was definitely definitely, you know, a great place to see a show, and I would have loved to have stayed for the second one. But one was a taste. It was awesome.
It was just a taste to get the ball rolling. And Laguna Seca, I mean, it's just so cool down there. I mean, that's been a place that's been close to you and your family. And I mean, it's cool that that's where it started, because I mean, just in general, for anyone who, you know, in Northern California has been out there, I mean, just the camping and the hiking, and we've gone camping out there. I mean, it's a neat place to have that memory, you know?
Yeah, and it was a little trek, like a little over an hour, but not that far. Like, you felt like it wasn't right in your backyard, but it definitely wasn't that far for a day trip. So, yeah, it was beautiful. And just the whole scene, just seeing all the deadheads, and I had heard, you know, about the shows and had friends that had gone to shows when I was, so like I said, it was my senior year in high school, but it was just amazing seeing it in person and being a part of it. So.
Well, so this is 1987. We looked at the set list and kind of picked through the set list to figure out which song you know, you wanted to pick. Obviously, well, me being a little bossy, I picked one and then we picked a different one. But so we changed that one up a little bit. But so tell me about what we chose and what we're going into.
So I went with Touch of Grey because that song was just such, you know, of the moment of 87. Like, that was, you know, it was a new song then. And as much as I loved hearing the old songs, it was the song that was also being played on the radio. And so it was, you know, current for that time, and it was awesome seeing it in concert. At the time, I didn't really know the difference between the older songs and the newer songs because I was just experiencing and listening to it all at the same time. But I think this was a song that I just, you know, when I heard it, had heard it before, and just was super excited to see it live.
Well, I think playing something from In the Dark and playing Touch of Grey in 87 is the perfect apropos song for that time. And you know what? And what you're saying, I mean, it's like it didn't get you in. You were already in. And I know that people out there are kind of funny about when Touch of Grey came out and they got their top, you know, hits going. But, I mean, I don't know. I'm all for anything that brings people in and makes people listen and gets people excited about a community. So, I mean, I'm thrilled that they had Hell in a Bucket and Touch of Grey, and, you know, that the whole In the Dark album had this success because it got people out there and listening, and I think that that's always a good thing, you know?
Absolutely. No, and I would be places and it would come on, and, you know, my friends, when I went on to college, were like, oh, look, Michelle, it's one of your songs. It's being played on the radio. And granted, you know, a few years later, I realized, you know, that, yes, it wasn't just, you know, In the Dark, that there were lots of songs that were, you know, quote unquote, my songs, the songs that I enjoyed listening to. But those were the ones that you know, friends of mine heard and recognized as the Grateful Dead. So I feel like it definitely just got it out there where, you know, a lot of people, you know, heard it on the radio and knew of the song. So that was, so it was awesome seeing that song, seeing it played.
That's very cool. Well, I'm all for renaissances, and we'll talk later on about current state of affairs that I've talked about with other podcasts. But you know, we're in a bit of a renaissance again now. So any Renaissance time that brings people in and gathers new listeners, I think is always good. Well, let's go into some music. So I'm going to play from your first concert from Laguna Seca, and this is on Saturday, May the 9th, not Sunday Mother's Day, Mom. We were back. I think we all went out to lunch with Nana. We're going to do Touch of Grey from Laguna Seca, Saturday the 9th, from 1987. So you are a senior in high school with Emily out there in Laguna Seca, and I was a sulky 8th grader wishing that I could be along, but I wasn't. So everybody enjoy, and we will be right back.
Awesome.
We have just enjoyed listening to Touch a Gray from Laguna, Seca, and that was the beginning of the journey. So, I mean, so many fun stories. I mean, I jumped on the bus on your coattails after that, right? And
yes.
so much fun adventures. I mean, 87, 88, I mean, just so many great places, Shoreline. And
absolutely. Lots of Shoreline shows. Lots of fun summer camping shows. They played it at Calaveras. That was a really fun, 3-day camping show. Back to Laguna Seca for camping shows. Oakland Coliseum, Shoreline. Lots of good shows. Lots of 2-3-day shows that you could drive to. Just a really fun time when I was really enjoying the scene.
I know. Thinking about like college days, I mean, the timing, I mean, the Bay Area and seeing the Grateful Dead in the late 80s in college, I mean, really, it's just a kind of an awesome thing to be into, and just availability of it all, I mean, I've talked to other people about, the East Coast and the West Coast and, how many miles they would have to go to see 3 or 4 shows. And I was like, we would catch 20 in a year without going more than 90 miles. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Bang for your buck, driving out to different areas. And like I said, there'd be 2-3 in a row, so we were able to see, multiple shows in one weekend. And I mean, the camping shows were just the best because you got there and parked your car and that was it. I remember when I went to Calaveras, I got there and when I got out of the car, my flip-flop broke. And I was barefoot for 3 days. Like, where else could you just be barefoot for 3 days? And who cares? It just was so much fun. And just running into other people that you had seen either at other shows or from other, just different, times, high school, college, just different settings. And just a really, really fun time.
And all of the friends, the friends that I had in high school and the friends that you had in high school, we're still friends with them. We still consider, Liz and Emily and Kat and Liz jumping aboard a little later, and Lamore. It's the capsule, the quality, the people that, we shared the experiences with. Hello to all of those people who are listening.
Yay.
Hi, hey.
Such fun times, such good memories. And what's so funny is that, my husband, we've been together we've been together over 20 years, but married we've been together over 20 years, but married for almost 20 years. And we saw so many of the same shows. We didn't know each other, but, we were bound to meet. There were lots of, our friends were there partying in separate groups, but parallel partying. So that's pretty cool too.
There's a cosmic connection out there. Well, so in the vein of like summer and hanging out, so the next concert, we kind of went through, and there were so many to choose from, and I kind of swayed the selection a little bit with, even though it's your podcast, I'm being a little bossy with the Cal Expo summer, because that was the summer that we were living together. That was the big college experience for me, going to live in your apartment for 3 months.
Yeah. Well, I had just graduated, and you were able to come up. You had just graduated high school, and I just graduated college. You came and spent the summer with me. And, the Dead played at Cal Expo in Sacramento. We were living in Davis, and so it was just a short little drive away, and we went and had a great camping weekend.
Did we drive at night? No, we camped, right? We
didn't drive. We camped there. We stayed there,
okay. It's all a blur, but it was fun. Drive now as a grown up looking back from Davis to Sacramento. It's a short jump unless you were, having the time we were having. So the
car stayed parked, which definitely made for just a better experience when you just were able to kind of wander back to your tent at the end of the night. So so much fun.
Yeah, no, that was so fun. And then I was looking at set list. I think after the Cal Expo that we're going to play, we hightailed it back to the Bay Area because they played the next week at Shoreline, and I remember going to that too. I think that capped off sort of the end of the summer experience, because when I was downloading concerts and looking at them, they played back to back from in August, and then they popped down to Shoreline, and I think we got it all in 1, 2, 3.
And I think that was the end of my Davis run. That's when I moved back to the Bay Area. So
awesome. Well, I'm going to play for all of our listeners that are listening to our walk down memory lane. from Cal Expo, and this is on August 17th, 1991. And Michelle, tell us, what song did we select from this?
So we are going to play Estimated Profit, which is one of my all-time favorites. I just love Estimated Profit. And shout out to you, Izzy. I danced to Estimated so many times with you, and I just, the song will always make me think of you, and it's absolutely one of my favorites. So.
All right, well, California, here we come, the prophet on the burning shores. Everybody enjoy a little Estimated Profit, and then we will go down our journey a little bit further. Enjoy. Well, hey now, everyone.
Hey.
Listening to Estimated Profit, and gosh, I mean, that's just always such a fun song. I mean, being the native Californians that we are, I feel
I just love it.
Claim that one because as it was written just for us, it was that's just so much fun. And they played that at the last show we'll talk about. But so now we're in 91, and we couldn't pick a New Year's concert to show, so we're gonna talk about two, and then we'll dub in some songs from both of them. So we're going off the track here on Strangers Stopping Strangers. So everybody follow along. But New Year's Eve. So tell me what let's talk a little bit about New Year's Eve at 91 into 92.
So there's nothing like a New Year's show, and I know you actually experienced your New Year's show before I did, and I was so envious when you came back with your fancy ticket stub and all your memories from the show, and then I was fortunate to get to go to a New Year's show 91 to 92. It was awesome just to experience it. We got to the show, and it was just, packed. We didn't know to line up ahead of time, right? We just, got there, walked in, and everybody was, blankets all lined up, and the floor space was taken, and we just wanted to sit down and chill and get ready before the show. And our cousin came down. Remember, he walked down and saw us. I mean, just so random that he, found us, so we weren't texting or communicating how to meet.
No, I mean, that was just a great thing about Dead shows is you would just run into someone that you would just never expect to see, like a little angel, and they would just come in, and it was just this serendipity that just was always happening all over the place.
And we knew he had been to shows that we had been to, but we had never seen each other. And here we are, like, not sure where to go, not sure where to sit, and he came down and he's like, I got you. I've got, special pass seats. Where were we sitting? We were like in a kind of roped off reserve.
In the hall? Oh, no, they met before that. In the hall, peeking in on the standing ground. Yeah, no, I want to feel it was like Oakland Coliseum, like roped off. I think it was the left side. I think we were on the fill side, like the left-hand side, kind of tucked underneath the cover there.
Yeah, and close. Like we were able to see everything really close. It was awesome. So he brought us to these special seats in a roped-off zone, and we were able to sit down and just chill and relax. And so happy to have a place to sit and be able to see the show, and just so awesome.
Oh, he was just so sad. He just died. I mean, just thinking about him, he was just such a big, friendly, handsome, tall beacon of a man, right? His big old, just one big the curly hair and the big smile, and he was so cute. And hey, Bobby, the Bobby Cully or any of the Cullys or Ann or Karen or whoever's listening to this, just talking about Cousin Bobby, who came in and swooped the Bernard girls out and plopped us in our little spot.
In a little spot. And then he took care of us. He brought us stuff through the show. We were so paranoid we wouldn't get up, wouldn't dare leave our seats or go to the bathroom or get anything to eat because, we were sure they'd never let us back into the roped off spot. So we just enjoyed our seats, and he brought us stuff, and right before New Year's, he brought us 2 cans of Coors Light, and it was just, it was New Year's. It was a party.
We were like little birds in the nest that Bobby plopped us down and kept bringing us little bibbits. No, it was so fun. I do, and that was the first year after Bill Graham died, and we were just talking about it. It was the last year that the Grateful Dead played New Year's Eve together. I mean, that was, they played on, but they didn't do the Oakland shows any longer.
They did not do that. And they did, I had heard about so many shows, and so they did like a montage of different countdowns, a video montage beforehand. So I kind of felt like I was brought up to speed, even though I had missed them all. I got to see little snippets of them there, and I know that the one you had you been to one or two before?
I went to the one before. Kat and I went to the one before. We were seniors in high school, and with Bill swooping across, and there was no Bill, so they didn't do a Bill. Oh yeah, the balloons and the glitter and the confetti, and but they did the balloons, and I remember the balloons dropping and the glitter, and and I just remember they had the very dark, the Bill Graham. They did the montage of him, and it was very it was like kind of like almost gothic, with really kind of paying homage, because it was just a couple months after he died, and Bill Graham was such a, I mean, he was an inspiration.
He was an inspiration. Absolutely. Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about more New Year's for you listeners. So I'm gonna do a back-to-back song. So Michelle's next special, when we went through all of the memories, there were 2 New Year's ones. So in the stories, we're gonna jump forward 20 years, but for our listeners, I'm going to play back-to-back Sugar Magnolia from 91 into 92, and then I want to talk a little bit about New Year's Eve, and then we will tell you that selection, and I'll remind you again before you type in the music. So that being like a cumulative experience, like all of those years, and then the next special memory was
jumping forward, jump forward, 20 years, and I definitely went to different shows, different renditions of them, whether it was seeing, Phil Lesh and Friends or the other ones or Furthur Festival, lots of shows. Typically New Year's Eve, I want to say it was mostly New Year's Eve that we were able to catch. And really, if they were playing, there was nowhere I'd rather be on New Year's Eve. I mean, it's just such a fun way to ring in the new year. And Chris and I got to see quite a few shows, and this one just stands out, the 2011 to 2012. So it's jumping 20 years forward, and it was just it was such a great show. Coming into 2012, the year of the dragon, the beginning set list was just amazing, and they came out at New Year's with the dragon, and it was just it was so much fun. Father Time was there.
Was it Bill Walton that came down as Father Time?
Came out as Father Time.
Hey, Bill Walton, if you're listening.
So fun. And then it was just such a great show. So much fun. After New Year's, they went into playing in the band, and I guess at some point I actually nodded off. I think I had a smile on my face as I nodded off. But they played a whole third set. Like, when does that happen? They played.
No, I was looking at it. It went on and on. I mean, not
went on and on.
Not since the 70s.
I think it went on till like 2 in the morning. I mean, I was in and out of dozing, but I enjoyed, I'm sure, every minute of it. Such an awesome show.
I love the story. I was like just imagining you being there, kind of like curled up in your chair, and Chris just beaming with a big smile on his face, like hanging out, smiling, like all is well in the world, just like grooving and smiling, and got you tucked into your little seat there, and just kept on going,
Such a good time. So much fun.
I think I remember hearing about it, and I was transported to the East Coast at that time, so I get to, again, like the early days, live vicariously. Well, I'm gonna play one of your other favorites. So what did we, from that monstrous three-set show?
Three-set show. But we went with Shakedown Street, which was at the beginning, right? Sometime in the first set.
Because we got to get a Shakedown Street on. We got to hit all the high points on this podcast. So listeners, I'm going to do a back-to-back, and I've gone staying with the format where I'm not going to do the full song because I'm trying to keep the podcast at a nice, digestible hour or less time, and then I'm going to have a companion guide on the website with all of the songs unedited. So we're going to do Sugar Magnolia and kind of do the opening chords and go in for a little bit. And then I will do my best to fade it out and then come back in with some Shakedown Street from Furthur. And it'll be fun to hear the difference between the Grateful Dead and the Furthur and the energy and what's going on. So so Happy New Year's, everyone! Woohoo!
Yay!
Yay! that was a fabulous 2 New Year's 20 years apart, right? 91 into 92, well, 19 years, and then, no, 20 years, 91 into 92 and 20, so 20-year span there for some of those boys playing in the band. And we're not going to hop as farther down the road now, because of the last topic, I kind of did a shout out when we talked about the show before, but absolutely wanted to go over is the Dead and Company this summer, because that was just an all-star weekend, man. I mean, that was just the best.
Yeah, so much fun. So I was able to come out to Boston, and my friend Emily, who I saw my first show with, was able to come and meet me there. She came out from North Carolina, so having Emily there and hanging out with you, Stace, it was just so fun. We had the best time together. It was just so great. And it lived up. I anticipated it, and then the show was just amazing. It was so awesome. And, you know, one of the songs that I was thinking about that I really wanted to hear was The Music Never Stopped, and it was it the second or third song? It was early on the first show, and that's my choice. But I don't know, anything about the show you want to share? Like, it was just so special. I had just started doing this podcast about 6 weeks before, so I mean, obviously I've done a deep dive, you know. I mean, now as we go back through our history, I mean, Deadhead for, you know, almost 30 years, but you know, the last 4 or 5 months have been, you know, really transformative with the community. So, I mean, I was just getting my engines revving, and then to be in Boston and being a transplant, I mean, and having you there and having Emily there, and I mean, and your place, and I had never been to Fenway Park, so it was I was excited to see that, and just to experience my first East Coast show. I had never been on an airplane someplace to see the Dead. There were so many shows that I was able to see just by driving to. So the excitement of flying somewhere to see them was just so awesome, you know? Yeah, we had so much fun. And the first night, I have to say, I feel was better than the second night. I mean, we had a couple scuffles getting in. We missed the first couple songs. And, that's true. And there were some serious highlights the second night. But the first night, I mean, they were just on fire all night. I mean, you know, so good. Jack Straw, and they did, I mean, you know, as we're going to do The Music Never Stopped, and Donna. I mean, we've never heard Donna play with the band before, so. It was amazing. Cool. Yeah, it was awesome. And we had seats that were kind of far up, and there were all these empty seats down low, and we were able to upgrade, which just put us in such a good mood, right? Being able to. Yeah, no, we just boogied on down, and the second night we just kind of boogied into our seats too, right? I mean, we just kind of walked in and sat down, and then there we were, you know. I mean, only a good show that you just pop on in, you know. You could just maneuver yourself into a good spot, and it was amazing. The people around were just, you know, I mean, it was awesome. It was just such a great show. Well, I am going to play for everyone The Music Never Stops, which has become a recent favorite. I mean, I've always loved the song, but I mean, there's just that upbeat, that fun, and I think just, you know, after 50 years, I mean, there's, you know, the songs, you know, the lyrics, they change, they evolve with our lives and with their lives and with the listeners, but I mean, there is just something special about The Music Never Stops after 50 years, you know, and to have, you know, and I remember listening to it with, I was talking to Wendy about the band and them changing and different people, and I played From the Vault and The Music Never Stops, and how awesome it was, and how Donna played such a strong part in the song from the Vault version, and then to hear her come in and play the melodies like she did back in the 70s, it was just perfect. So good, so good. No, well, you had mentioned that she had played with at some of the shows over the summer, and so it was such a treat to have her there and to be able to enjoy that. So good. Yeah, no, it was awesome. Well, everybody enjoy The Music Never Stopped from Fenway, and then we are going to come back and do a little sign off. So, Music Never Stops. Go get it.
everyone, we're back from The Music Never Stops, and the music never has stopped. I mean, it has been such a journey, and I've enjoyed all of the podcasts. They're all special, but no one's special like you. So this is welcome to our family.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It was really fun, kind of doing a walk down the memory lane and thinking about my shows and looking at the set list and getting excited about which ones to pick. So it was really fun.
Well, I mean, we were touched. I mean, I know I've mentioned early on in the podcast. I mean, our beginnings in Atherton. I mean, growing up in the same house as Bobby, and people say like, "Oh, that's so cool. You must have picked up some vibes." And I say, my sister did too. She's the one who really got me in. I'm like, he didn't just touch me. I mean, both of us. I mean, we
both lived in the house, and it's a very cool connection for sure.
Yeah, no, soaked up some serious Bobby vibes with all the neighbors when they said, "Oh, that Bob Weir." Remember the people in the back of the yard behind the they used to have those wild parties. You had all those friends
playing their music. Yeah.
So cool.
We would have loved to have been there.
Well, I don't think I had any idea how cool it was at the time, but now I think about it, I wish I could have interviewed them, like I want to know everything about what happened and, and the youth is wasted on the young. I had no idea as a kid how neat it was. But, well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your stories with me, which I love talking, and to the listeners who again are getting a little family vibe here. And everyone, thank you so much for listening and enjoying, and I'll be back in a couple weeks. So,
awesome. Thank you.
Okay, bye. Well, welcome back, Chicken Shack. Thank you so much for coming and stopping into the podcast.
Oh, hey, Staci. It's great to be back on. Great to talk to you.
Absolutely. So what's been going on?
Not a lot for the summer. I've been laying low. I was actually hiding out in a rock and roll band for a while. I was talking to Uncle Sam a couple of weeks ago, and, of course, the first thing on his mind is this election coming up. The summertime's done come and gone. And here we are in the fall. Fall tour season's kicking off, but it's also election season.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Well, I'm sure you had a few things to weigh in on. So, Phyllis, what's the feeling? I mean, I feel like there's just so much emotion going on out there, and I mean, and the band has always been political without really being too much direction. So, what's some of the, without specifics? So, what's the overall view?
Well, something we were talking about, we were reminded of Jerry. Jerry said, constantly choosing the lesser of two evils is still choosing evil. And it kind of fits with this election coming up. With either candidate, it's which is the lesser of two evils, but what are you going to do?
I agree. No, I agree. I mean, I think it's just important, I feel like people come to Stranger Stopping Strangers because they want to hear music and they want to talk and they want an escape, but I feel like it's happening right now. And again, the band with, just the voting and I mean, there's so many songs that were about our world and our community and it's just kind of time to kind of go back to the basics, right?
Right, that's right. I mean, it's all politicians throwing stones anyway, right? But
yeah. At
least we have the freedom to make a choice, and that's, you should get out and use that freedom, and get out and vote like the future depends on it, because it does.
Absolutely. Well, we just need the kids. They need to dance and shake their bones because the politicians are throwing stones this year. So I don't know. Come November, ashes, we'll all fall down. There's a lot going on, but no, it's good to hear from you, and it's good to know that Uncle Sam's looking after us, because I mean, he's shook the hand of some pretty important people out there.
He sure has. He has.
Well, right on. Well, thank you so much for coming in, and I'm gonna hear back from you, check back in. I don't want to wait till next July, so we're gonna we'll have you come by in the winter when you're hanging out dormant and say what's going on.
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, and we'll be in touch.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Stopping strangers, just a shakedown. Everybody's playing in the heart of Golden Land.